It wasn't a ghost. Joe Biden's back. The revenge tour's in full swing. First stop was the BBC. Today, The View. After a little trouble finding a seat, he called the country sexist.
Why do you think the vice president lost, and were you surprised?
I wasn't surprised, not because I didn't think the vice president's the most qualified person to be president. She is. She's qualified to be president of the United States of America. Right. But I was surprised. I wasn't surprised because they went the route of the sexist route, the whole route. I mean, this is a woman. She's this. She's that. I mean, it really. I've never seen quite as successful and a consistent campaign undercutting the notion that a woman couldn't lead the country and a woman of mixed race.
Biden just said he knew Kamala was going to lose. He said, of course she was going to lose. She's a woman. You saw what happened to Hillary. America's sexist. Biden went on The View and said, I told you so. You never should have staged the coup. I can't believe you thought Kamala was going to win, you idiots. Remember, he only endorsed her as payback to Barack after he got whacked. Kamala's whole campaign blew up on The View. Remember? She couldn't think of anything she'd do differently. Joe just went back to the scene of the crime.
There has been some reporting that you encouraged her for there to be no daylight between the two of you. First, is that true? And do you think in retrospect that she should have tried to differentiate all the wins that your administration had?
Well, look, first of all, I did not advise her to say that, number one. Like I said, I was vice president. I understand the role, number one. Number two, I think she was talking about wouldn't have changed the successes we've had, not opposed to that we wouldn't change anything at all. She has to be her own person, and she was. She was part of every success we had.
Biden did it again. He still won't let Kamala have any daylight between them. She's going to be running in 28, and Biden's going to be on a rocking chair saying, I taught her everything she knows. Then he says he shouldn't have stepped down.
Knowing what you know now, do you think you would have beat him?
Yeah, he still got 7 million fewer votes.
Yes.
There you go, okay? A lot of people didn't show up, number one. Number two, they're very close in those toss-up states. It wasn't a slam dunk.
None of this makes sense. If you thought you could have beaten him, why'd you step down? If you knew Kamala would lose, why'd you step down? Why exactly did you step down?
Former president you served under, Barack Obama, George Clooney, a longtime supporter of yours, major Democratic donor, Chuck Schumer, your dear friend Nancy Pelosi, also had expressed concerns about your ability to do the job for 4 more years. Can I ask what your relationship is with President Obama and how you address those concerns that they raised?
Well, look, I think that the only reason I got out of the race was because I didn't want to have a divided Democratic Party. It was a simple proposition. And so that's why I got out of the race. I thought it was better to put the country ahead of my interest, my personal interest. I'm not being facetious. I'm being deadly earnest about that.
If Biden knew Kamala was going to lose and you knew he was going to win, how is that putting country above party? If you're a Democrat, it's the opposite. It's putting party above country. What does Biden care if his party's divided if he beats Trump? If Trump's a dictator, like he says he was, why would Biden purposely lose an election? Now Trump's president and the Democrats are more divided than ever. This is why he went on The View. Any real journalist would have picked up on the flaws of that logic and say, Joe, what are you talking about? Finally, they got to the debate.
Well, you know what freaked everybody out was that debate.
Yep.
It wasn't a great night. It was a bad night.
Terrible night.
And everybody lost their mind. Why do you think people bought into it, especially the Democrats?
Well, first of all, we still were winning primaries. We were still doing everything. The Democratic Party at large didn't buy into it, but the Democratic leadership and some of the very significant contributors did. When I left the race, Kamala had hundreds of millions of dollars. She had the best organized campaign. I'm going to say something outrageous. I've not lost many debates in my life. I've been pretty good at doing that. I was sick.
Biden says the Democrat Party was still behind him. He just had the sniffles. Pelosi and donors didn't understand that. The big guy claims he was on track to win. His campaign operation was better than Trump's. and he handed Kamala the world's fattest war chest. And he says it's not his fault. He was just too successful. All he wants is a thank you. Jill was there, and she says Barack should have shown her husband a little more respect.
I went onto the stage after the debate. I mean, we all saw it. It was terrible. And so Joe looked at me and he said, I'll use screwed up. He said, he didn't say that. And I said, yeah.
We all know Joe Biden. We know what he said.
And I said, yeah, you did, Joe. But we have hundreds of people waiting for us. Put your shoulders back. Walk out there. You know, be who you are. And we were not going to let 90 minutes of a debate define his presidency and all those years of service.
Jill just admitted her husband bombed the debate, but here's what she said right after.
Joe, you did such a great job. You answered every question. You knew all the facts.
Everyone else who watched the debate saw a man who couldn't be president and who should never have been president. The ladies asked Joe all about the tell-all books, quoting insiders who said he was mentally unfit and the White House covered it up. Listen.
You are wrong. There's nothing to sustain that, number one. Number two, you know, think of what we were left with. We were left with a circumstance where we had an insurrection when I started. Not since the Civil War. We went to work, and we got it done. And you know, one of the things and
Alyssa, you know, one of the things I think is that the people who wrote those books were not in the White House with us, and they didn't see how hard Joe worked every single day. I mean, it was nonstop. It's the White House, and Joe worked really hard. I think he was a great president. You look at things today, give me Joe Biden anytime.
Dr. Jill just took over that interview like Belichick's girlfriend. What was that? And none of what she's saying is true. Jen Psaki said Joe never got up early once unless it was like really important. And they'd call lids at 4 o'clock and you'd never see him again. Remember the marks Joe had on his face from the sleeping machine? We saw that at noon. There were stretches where he didn't see the president in public for 3 to 4 days, sometimes a whole week. But Jill says he wasn't hiding.
I did not create a cocoon around him. I mean, you saw him in the Oval Office. You saw him making speeches. He wasn't hiding somewhere. I didn't have him, you know, sequestered in some place. I mean, that's
Wish he had.
Was that hurtful to you when they were describing you as Lady Macbeth and all of
Yes,
those?
it was very hurtful. It was very hurtful, especially from some of our so-called friends.
They say in Washington, if you want a friend, get a dog. Well, the Bidens got a dog and he bit everybody. Jill was running cabinet meetings, just like she was running this interview. Here's why.
The projects, the benefits. How do you lead the world without having the best infrastructure in the world? How do you lead the world without having the best health care in the world? How do you lead the world without having the best education system in the world? How do you lead the world when you don't have that done?
The truth is, Joe can't talk, can't walk, and couldn't govern. No one wants to hear from him. One Democrat says this: I don't think he's reading the room at the moment. But the revenge tour isn't all about revenge. It's about money.
Biden Inc. has collapsed. All those Biden grandkids had a lavish lifestyle, which they very much liked. Hunter made hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars. Joe, as a former president, is not in a position to get the same kind of paid speeches, corporate boards, book deal. Biden Inc. needs a source of revenue. And Hunter does, even though he was pardoned and he's not going to prison, Hunter does not have great earning capacity. The reality that Biden Inc., the trough is empty, the spigot has shut down. They need a way to get back in the game to make big money.
Biden left office and the whole extended family suddenly went broke. And no one's paying his speaking fees, so the only way they can survive is write their own tell-all.
I'm writing another book.
Good.
Like 6,000 people are. I got to write a presidential memoir.
Oh, boy.
But they told me they had to do it within a year. No one's ever done one in a year.
Joe says, don't read those half dozen tell-alls from White House insiders. He says he's going to write his own book, and he's bragging it'll be done in a year, right in time for the midterms. The Democrats are going to love it. Jill was keeping a secret diary during her time as First Lady. Something about the Bidens and diaries, I don't know. And it's supposed to be explosive. Insiders say a Jill Biden book could be worth $30 million in a deal. And the Bidens just hired a crisis manager. They've been taking a beating with all these exposés. The next book that's about to drop, supposed to be the most damaging. Jake Tapper's tell-all. He obviously didn't write it. He has a co-author, but it's the worst one yet. There's a battle going on over the party's legacy. They want to purge Biden from history, absolve themselves of any responsibility for the last 4 years. They say they had no idea Joe was that bad, and they had nothing to do with the cover-up. It was just a few people like Jill, Hunter, and Biden's Delaware guys. Biden saying, no, you're not taking me down. I was president. Best 4 years since FDR, and I'm not going down without a fight. Well, Donald Trump, he's about to give him a little push. The White House is looking to release the Her tapes. We've all read the transcripts, and it was no bueno. Now, if they come out, we'll all hear Joe, in his own words, not remember when he was vice president. Biden and his crisis managers are bracing for impact. Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You won't get it anywhere else.